Good morning. Will all those in the chamber and gallery please rise for the morning prayer? The prayer this morning will be given by our very own Representative Mary Young.
I'm here to share my Irish heritage this morning and that of many other representatives. My grandparents came over from Ireland around the turn of the century, fleeing the poverty conditions they experienced. My grandparents struggled with being educated in Ireland, only being schooled until the 5th grade. I asked my grandfather, Dan McNamara, who lived with us, what the Irish language was, and he said it was Gaelic, but he wasn't allowed to speak it in Ireland. We used to talk about how our country is a melting pot. We realize now that it isn't a melting pot, but a country built on the strength of all, and that we need to celebrate the diversity of our communities. We have done this as a number of members have shared the richness of their culture, both by sharing prayers with us and sharing their stories in the well. reminding us that there are many different stories of immigration and connection to the U.S., and some of our ancestors were brought here forcibly without their consent. An Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sunshine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Pico, Ransom, Rich, Ricks,
Here, present.
Roberts, Sandridge, Sirota, Snyder, Soper, Representative Soper. Representative Soper is excused. Sullivan, Tipper, Titone, Valdez A, and Valdez D, Van Bever, Van Winkle, Weissman, Williams, Woodrow, Woog, Young, and Mr. Speaker.
With 63 present, 2 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Journal of Tuesday, March 16th, 2021 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Representative Doherty. You have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes actually won, I think. The ayes have it. The motion's adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Sirota.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have requested and received permission from the Majority Leader for an excused absence on Friday, March 19th.
Approved. Thank you, Representative Sirota. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have requested and have been approved to be excused on Friday, March 19th and the 26th by the Majority Leader.
Thank you. Approved. Further announcements and introductions. Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, good morning, Education Committee. From the wall here, we are meeting in room 107 at Adjournment, and we will be listening to Bill 1129. See you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative McLaughlin. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Finance Committee, just a reminder, we are meeting today at 1:30 p.m. in room 0112. Again, we're going to be hearing House Bill 1023, House Bill 1044, House Bill 1027, and House Bill 1077. So a busy day. Come ready to listen, and let's hear some bills.
Representative Valdez. A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Attention, energy and environment members. We are meeting today on adjournment about 15 to 20 minutes after we get out of here to hear 1178, 1180. See you there. Be there, be square.
Representative McCormick.
Okay, everyone, today is bingo day, and there was a farmer who had a dog. Today is Charitable Bingo Day, and you all have these green bags on your desk. Many of the nonprofit groups in your town, yes, your town, all over the state, depend on bingo and raffle games to meet their yearly fundraising goals. Youth soccer, community churches, high school bands, Lions clubs, American Legions, Elks, and more. Support your local charity by playing bingo today. Thank you.
Representative Arndt.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, Ag, Livestock, and Water will meet, and we will hear 3 bills, 1046, 1148, and Senate Bill 79. Be there. We're going to be quick.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Business Affairs and Labor Committee, we are meeting upon adjournment from floor work downstairs in room 112. We're going to hear 2 bills, 1147 and 1204. 1051 was on the calendar, but that will be pushed to next week.
Thank you. Representative Gray.
That's right. Members, good morning to you on happy St. Patrick's Day. What you see before you is one of the most attractive sports jackets ever worn in this esteemed building. But it also has a very significant history. This jacket has lived in this building since 1974. I have a binder somewhere that has the entire history of it that I could not find this morning. But I will say it was bequeathed to me from now State Senator Chris Hansen. Before that, it was won in a contest scheduled by Representative Roberts. Before that, it came from Representative Mitch Bush. Before that, it came from, I think, not yet then Speaker Duran. And before that, we got it back to Alice Madden, and then I have to find the binder after that. But if you think that I'm the only one who's ever looked this ridiculous wearing green in the well, I'm not. We've been doing it now for many, many decades. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you.
Representative Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you as well, Representative Catlin. Members, please pay attention to the well.
If I could have your attention for just a moment. I have a question to ask. How many of you have had your identity stolen through our unemployment? Well, I just joined your club yesterday. And let me tell you something, it grinds my gears. This is incredible. Here we are, legislators in the state of Colorado, and they can tap us. What are they doing to the people, the little old ladies I've got at home? The people that don't get notified until it's way too late. You know, I've got people in my district that cannot get unemployment. They've called me with tears in their voice and broke down and cried on the phone with their state representative because they had nowhere else to go. Young women with children waiting. Young women calling me and saying, my husband is just, he doesn't believe I'm trying. Come on. Where are we? These kind of things shouldn't happen in this state of Colorado. We're supposed to have our act together. We're supposed to be the people that are running things for the people that are out there needing our help. Yet we turn around and we have to have help from our staff in order to get out from under a fraudulent filing on my name and your name. As a citizen, as a person, it angers me. As a representative, it worries me. I have no idea how to fix it, but I would say that sooner or later we're all probably going to co-sponsor some type of a bill that says let's try to fix it. You know, folks, I'm sorry to take too much of your time, but I wanted you to know how serious I take this. And I see here that you take it seriously too, and thank you. The people in this state thank you. If we take it that seriously, we may be able to find a way to fix this. The answer is on the dark web. All these answers. You know, hey, I live on a farm. The only thing dark out there is night. And I didn't figure on somebody stealing my social security number and everything else because I've never put it on the internet. But I have to turn around and give them all this information to people that may have lost that information to begin with and run it through again so that some criminal cabal, either in this country or outside of our boundaries, can pick it up and do it again. This COVID relief bill that's coming down towards us now, how much are they going to take from our people? And when are we going to get mad enough to say not anymore? It seems like we're just pouring money on the ground so that these folks can pick it up and run with it. It needs to get to my people. The 58th district is hurting. It's an ag-based communities, and we're hurting. But I can tell you the crooks are not hurting. I came here to this building to try and do some good for the people that live in the 58th district. And I'm trying, and I am trying. But I'm going to need you folks' help with this. There are a lot of creative minds standing up in your seats, and thank you very much for doing that. But I'm going to need your help, and I'm going to want your help. And if there is something that we can do from this building, then I ask you, let's start today. Thank you very much for indulging me. And by the way, this is the only green tie I've ever had in my life. I bought it specially for you. Thank you very much. St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, Representative Callan. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, that brings us to third reading, final passage. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1052.
House Bill 1052 by Representative McKean, also Senator Woodward, concerning the inclusion of pumped hydroelectric energy generation in the definition of eligible energy resources for purposes of meeting Colorado's renewable energy standard.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't move House Bill, I move House Bill 1052 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1052 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Those participating remotely, Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Arndt and Representative Catlin. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1052 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1131.
House Bill 1131 by Representatives Amabile and Catlin, also Senator Winter, concerning governance requirements for cooperative electric associations.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1131 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1131 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Bockenfeld, Geithner, Lynch, Tipper. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 12 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1131 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1114.
House Bill 1114 by Representatives McCormick and Bradfield, also Senator Jaquez Lewis, concerning the provision of internet service by a school district to enable individuals associated with the district to access a school district network.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1114 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1114 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 12 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1114 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1047.
House Bill 1047 by Representative Kennedy, also Senator Lee, concerning the drawing of voting districts by county governments.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1047 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1047 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1047 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1060.
House Bill 1060 by Representatives Gonzalez Gutierrez and Judah, also Senator Gonzalez, concerning the certification process for the purpose of application for U non-immigrant status.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1060 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1060 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1060 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Jackson, Representative Ricks, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1090.
House Bill 1090 by Representative Valdez A., also Senator Gonzalez, concerning certain criminal marijuana offenses.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1090 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1090 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 aye votes, 19 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1090 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Jackson, Representative Ricks, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1072.
House Bill 1072 by Representative Froelich, also Senator Fields, and Hawkes Lewis, concerning equal access to services related to out-of-home placements.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1072 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1072 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Tipper. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1072 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Ricks and Representative Jackson, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1055 till Friday, March 19th.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1055 will be laid over to the third reading calendar on Friday, March 19th. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also move to lay over the general orders calendar till tomorrow, March 18th.
Seeing no objection, the general order second reading of bills calendar will be laid over one day. Message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Message from the Senate will be printed in the Journal. Introduction of resolution.
SJR 21-005 by Senator Gonzalez, also Representatives Valdez A. and Gonzalez Gutierrez, concerning the recognition of Latino Advocacy Day.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we suspend the rules for immediate consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 5.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the rules will be suspended for the immediate consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 5. Representative A. Valdez and Representative Madam Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Joint Resolution 5 and ask that it be read at length.
SJR 21-005, concerning the recognition of Latino Advocacy Day. Whereas Latino Advocacy Day, LAD, celebrates 15 years of engaging Latinos from all over Colorado to use their voices to enact change in state policy. LAD's legacy has enabled Latinos in Colorado to take ownership of their political power and to build momentum in advocacy and the policy-making process. And whereas Latinos are a key part of Colorado's constituency, Latinos are leaders in their families and communities, as well as in elected offices throughout the country. The recent elections were historic in electing Latinos to positions of power in our federal, state, and local governments, and in voter turnout among Latinos. And whereas engaging Latinos in the political process ensures that the voices and lived experiences of all Coloradans are reflected in future legislation and in shaping the policies that impact the daily lives of people across the state. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 73rd General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, members of the General Assembly, recognize the achievements of the Latino-Latina community in politics and honor their contributions to communities all across Colorado, and that we pay tribute to past and current organizers of Latino and Latina Advocacy Day who passionately dedicate their time, energy, and efforts to ensure the equitable representation and the just treatment of Latino communities in Colorado. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to the Colorado Democratic Latino Caucus, Colorado Organization for Latino Opportunity and Reproductive Rights, Colorado Latino Leadership, Advocacy and Research Organization, Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, Protege Mi Familia Voter Education Fund, and Voices Unidas de los Montanos.
Representative A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, buenos dias, members. Colorado is very rich in Latino and Hispanic heritage. The name of our state is Colorado, which means the color red. So, beginning at our founding, we have so much Spanish influence, so much heritage in this state, and so many Latinos call this state home. 1,269,520 Latinos call Colorado home. That's 22% of the state, which means each and every one of us have a sizable Latino population in our district. Members, this rich history includes these walls right here in the Capitol building. Our Constitution was written by Casimiro Varela, who served 40 years and is called the Father of the Senate. Over the years, there has been so many rich historic figures who have served in this chamber. The first Latina woman, Polly Baca, who served in this chamber and is my constituent. Hello, Polly. Corky Gonzalez, who is a champion of Chicano rights here in the state of Colorado and statewide, and also the grandfather of one of our best members. Federico Pena served in this very chamber before becoming the mayor of Denver, the Secretary of Transportation, and the Secretary of Energy. These amazing people embody the spirit of the Latino people, the great vision that we have for the state of Colorado, the great vision that we share with everybody. They paved a path for us, and our careers are made possible by the communities who lifted them up and created that history in this very building. We span both sides of the aisle and the entire political spectrum, from us from Denver on the left to our friends across the aisle from the right. Today, we ask you open your doors to our community. Talk to us about what's important. Talk to us about our communities and your communities and how we work together to create a better state. While we don't always share political ideas with each other, what we do share is one thing. We share la raza. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members, for honoring this day with us today. We were supposed to do this on Monday. This year celebrates the 15th anniversary of Latino Advocacy Day. And this has been organized by grassroots organizations in the community that have made an effort to reach out and speak to all of us as legislators. And these are community members that have traditionally come down to the Capitol and have asked to speak to all of you about the issues that matter to them. And I think we can all agree how important it is to hear from the community members that are taking time out of their day, leaving school, leaving work, to come down here and tell us why they want us to either vote on something or why something is incredibly important to them and their community. And so I do just want to honor that, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. We move for the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 5 and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Representative Holtorf.
Hold on, guys.
Hold on.
No. I'm just moving up.
Stay here.
Buenos días, damas y caballeros. Aquí estamos en un día para observar la historia rica de los hispanoamericanos. Y esto me da mucho orgullo. Y es un día muy importante para honorar. Pero una cosa, este idioma está rico en la historia. El idioma masculino y femenina, que tiene miles de años de historia. Y esto no vamos a borrar. Yo tengo mucho orgullo por la gente que están aquí. Pero primera cosa de todo, somos americanos. Somos estadounidenses primero. Y esto está presentado por la gente de Pueblo, Colorado, los que han recibido el honorario más importante, the Medal of Honor, en este estado, en esta ciudad. Y es algo rico que nunca podemos olvidar. Now, for those of you that don't speak Spanish, I'm going to attempt to translate what I just said, because it's very important. I say that I am very proud of the Hispanic heritage that we have in this state. I am very proud for the day that we celebrate. But I also made a comment that we are very proud of our heritage and our language that is both masculine and feminine for thousands of years. And this we will not erase, our heritage and our history and the way we speak. I also said that this state shares a heritage that is more impactful than almost anything, because we're Americans first, above all. Then we are Latinos or Latinas or Hispanics, whatever word you choose to carry with your Latin heritage. And there are many. And none of them can be canceled, nor should they be. We have a history of masculine and femininity in our language, and that's very important to me because Spanish was my first language. I also said that in this state, in this city of Pueblo, Colorado, we have a legacy that cannot be erased of Hispanic contribution to being Americans. And those of you from Pueblo know this. Our majority leader knows this better than anyone. The Wall of Heroes, and more Medal of Honor winners than any city in the United States. Where does that come from? Ladies and gentlemen, that comes from a pride in being from the United States of America and American first. Make no mistake about that. Because those of us from other countries who have lived in other countries and visited other countries other than the United States of America know what true oppression is, what true poverty is. We've seen it. We've walked in it. I have not lived it by the grace of God, but I have been very close to it in my life. So with that, I'd like to honor and thank everybody here for this great day, and thank the bill sponsors for bringing this very important message, and I have the utmost respect for all of you today. Thank you.
Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Holtorf, for your thoughts on this. And I just have to say that one of the beautiful things about being Latina, Chicana, how I identify myself, and what comes first for me, I just want to say that we are not a monolith, and so we do not all think the same, believe the same. As we heard Representative Valdez say, we are a broad spectrum, right? And we don't always agree on policy. So I just want to put that out there that we are not all the same. We all come from different walks of life. I am a proud Chicana. I ask for an aye vote.
Madam Speaker Pro Tem Benavides.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to echo the Assistant Majority's terms, but as Representative Holtorf indicated, we are a mixture of peoples, and there are many of us here in this country. Myself, as Assistant Majority Leader said, consider myself a Chicana, and that means I have Latino and Indigenous roots, and we can't forget that we are a mix of peoples, and most of us are not singular from any given background, and we recognize that and we embrace it. We don't limit ourselves because someone has they're mixed with something else. We are all La Raza, as Representative Valdez indicated, and we are proud of that. And we welcome everybody that can support that as well. So thank you.
Representative D. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to say, as Colorado has a deep rich of history in Colorado, and where Colorado began in the town of San Luis, is the oldest town in Colorado. It's an honor to represent San Luis and Southern Colorado. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 5. Is there any objection to a voice vote? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. SJR 5 is adopted. Representative A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would ask that the roll call of today be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, this morning's roll call will be added as co-sponsors. That brings us back to announcements and introductions. Mr. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today is the Day of Immigrants. So if we talk about La Raza, I think you also have to talk about the long and storied history of people who come to this country looking for a better way of life. I'm a Mick. I was a Mac, now I'm a Mick. We have likely the green jacket of Representative Gray and this rich history of the chairs that we sit in to remind us of the verdant green of Mother Ireland. And I wish that I could do a good Irish accent, but you don't want to hear it. But I will tell you this, my parents met and married in Manhattan. And
hold on one
around
sec,
New York,
Representative McKean. Members, please take your conversations off to the side and please direct your attention to the wall.
Going around New York as a small kid, I was fascinated with all of these different neighborhoods. And I didn't realize that Harlem had started out as an Irish immigrant community. That Harlem, New York was the place where the Irish lived and would get on the trains and would go out to New Jersey and go out to Pennsylvania and leave the city to go work. And what they did working was they dug potatoes and they picked onions and they did a lot of the hard work. They made steel. Irish immigrants to this country have been much the backbone of the physical, hard-working labor force that we had. I'm incredibly proud to have an Irish history, and today is St. Patrick's Day. And so we get to say Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I come from the same background. My great-grandfather also came over through Ellis Island at the turn of the last century. I am a McSkimming McCormick, so I have so many Micks in my name, it's hard to keep track. And my great-grandfather came over, and then my grandfather, who we just discovered was my grandfather through the magic of science and ancestry DNA, my mom's dad, who she never knew, actually volunteered at a late age to join the Army as Private First Class Charles McSkimming, and went on to fight for this country and died on D-Day at Normandy, at the beaches. So this great heritage of being an immigrant and also becoming a full-fledged American and standing up for this country is in my DNA. And I wanted to read just a quick Irish blessing. For each petal that you see on a shamrock, this brings a wish your way, good health, good luck, and happiness today and every day. So thank you to all the Micks and the Micks in everyone's family and the Micks on the wall. I'm proud to be a new member of the Mick caucus.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. Mr. Minority Leader McKean.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Mix on the Wall. So you guys have to understand our struggle. We've spent our entire lives saying capital M, C, capital K, EAN. We welcome you to St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy with us, and if you are so lucky as to have the snow melt and find a four-leaf clover, let us know.
Representative Herod. Representative Bacon, Representative Michelson-Janae, Representative Cutter, Representative Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I come to you today to speak of something that none of us really want to hear about or talk about. As a lot of you all know, 8 people were murdered in Atlanta yesterday. The hate crime was perpetrated against members of the Asian community, and it was a terror attack. It was an attack against people to make them and make their communities feel like they don't belong in this country, and quite frankly, that they don't deserve to live. Hate against the AAPI community is up across this country, and we must do something about it. Acts of domestic terrorism against our brothers and sisters and non-binary people in the AAPI community is something that we as a body must address. We must not turn a blind eye to the racism, the hate, the xenophobia that is happening throughout our communities. And yes, the white supremacy. In Denver, we have seen a rise in hate crimes against this community. In fact, after talking to Chief Payson recently, they have stood up a special task force to address this. Because not only is it about a crime against one person or property, it's a crime against an entire community. And we must put our arms around folks and say no more. We have to do something about it. Words like the China virus and other hate slurs that have been used not only in this body or in this building, but throughout the community is perpetuating hate. And we've got to stop it. The same way as if someone were to call me a name, the N-word or something else, that is wrong. We've got to stand up and say something about it. To members, and I'm disappointed if people are sitting for this. Members of the AAPI community, the Asian American Pacific Islands, and our immigrant communities, you are worthy of our protection. You are worthy of our love. And even though you do not have representation here in this body today, as the chair of the Black Caucus, I want you all to know that we stand in solidarity with you. We will fight for you. We will not stand for this type of hate in Colorado or in any parts of this country. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for those who were murdered in the shooting in Atlanta, as well as those who have had hate perpetuated against them simply for being who they are.
A moment of silence is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd ask if we could acknowledge my colleague on the other side of the aisle, Representative Soper.
Representative Soper.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. It's great to be with you, even if I'm still on the other side of the state at the moment. There's 200,000 Asians in Colorado and Pacific Islanders, including my wife, who's from Taiwan. I can tell you that we've seen firsthand that certainly questions that invoke hate or racism are apparently there. And this was true when I was first elected, and one reporter asked my wife if she was a citizen. I don't tend to walk up to most people, and the first question I say to them, "Are you a citizen of this country?" It's just offensive, and quite frankly, only based on the fact that you look different. The Asian population is unlike other demographic populations in our state. There's kind of a fear that the Asian population gets forgotten, as statistically, they're amongst the highest earners in Colorado. They're the least likely to be on public assistance. They're the most likely to have private commercial insurance. And Asians, out of all demographic groups, including Caucasians, have a higher percentage of independent business ownership. Yet, they still tend to be targets of racial discrimination and bias-motivated crimes. I was skeptical about this at first, so I Googled Colorado and Asian hate crimes. You'll see that since the pandemic began, newspapers ranging from the Colorado Springs Gazette to the Grand Junction Daily Sentinel to the Denver Post have all reported about the escalation in crime right now. I know there might be a feeling that some people may have more while others don't, but just because their skin or their eyes look different is not a reason to treat them differently, especially a group that works hard, they values their family, and they love living in our great state of Colorado, just like you and I. Congress recently denounced the anti-Asian hate crimes that are going on across this great nation. I think we ought to do the same here in Colorado. It's unacceptable to treat anyone differently based on how they look. And Asians certainly contribute a lot to our great state. As a matter of fact, Asian countries have a representation in Colorado. And I know Colorado is a major trading partner with nations like South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. So we definitely need to stand up for our Asian brothers and sisters because they're Coloradans too. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Holtorf, or Representative Soper. Representative Michelson-Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague from Denver for bringing this forward in such a powerful way. As chair of the Jewish caucus, I grew up knowing that at different points in my family's history, we were hunted, we were hiding, we were running, and to this day, there are members of my family who feel uncomfortable wearing their skull cap out in public because my family's very, very religious, because they will be the target of some random person's thoughts aggressions, etc. And as I was growing up, we constantly were taught about this poem from the Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. And it was so important to me, this poem, and I think we need to listen to it and think about the line we need to add. And the poem says, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." It is our job to speak for them. And the Anti-Defamation League, who I'm a fellow with, the Anti-Defamation League has protected the Jewish community for a very long time and continues to track what's going on. But now, ADL and Hate Free Colorado Coalition are working closely with partners in the AAPI community in the last year to respond to hate incidents targeting Asian Americans, in particular with Asian Chamber of Commerce, Asian Pacific Development Center, Sakura Foundation, and the Denver AAPI Commission. They're in regular communication. They have provided assistance to several individuals who have reported being the target of hate incidents here. This is here. We have provided information to law enforcement on the threats facing the AAPI community because we are constantly tracking the hatred that goes on underlying websites and Facebook pages, etc. And we've consulted with the local AAPI leaders on ways to facilitate hate incident reports. It's our job to report it if we see it. Remember there used to be, I guess it was in England, see something, say something, right? I'm not saying spy on your neighbor. I'm saying if you see an individual in your community who is an Asian American and they are reaching out to you, or they're an immigrant or a refugee, and they're reaching out to you and they're saying, I am being targeted, we have the power to stand up and do something. So empower yourself to do something. We can say something. We can stop what's going on. Thank you.
Representative Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to my colleagues for the eloquence. I won't add much, but I will just say that it's not true that words don't matter. Maybe you remember being a child and sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never harm you. That's not true. Words are very harmful and very powerful. And I think about that a lot. We all have a responsibility with our words and our statements. Words can unlock hatred, and that can lead to the violence that we saw. So we all use our words all the time to illuminate problems and communicate with our constituents and forward our political goals, our policy goals. Let's be sure that we all think carefully about the words we use and use our words to uplift and move our communities forward and not slide backward into this dangerous rhetoric and hatred.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say one more thing, and excuse me for calling out my colleagues. You can sit and stand however you choose. One thing that really upsets me about what's going on is that I know that words have had an impact. I, too, have made mistakes and said things that were offensive to folks in communities that are not mine. And I sincerely apologize and appreciate when I'm called out or called in because I said something inappropriate. When I lived in Seoul, Korea with my family, my brother and I thought it was funny to make fun of people who didn't look like us, maybe because they were making fun of us sometimes too. But I was called in by someone who said, "This hurts me." And it was my ajumma, a woman who was taking care of me. Ajummas across this country are being attacked on our streets, you guys. In fact, the majority of the attacks that are happening against the AAPI community is happening in the open. And we can stop it by just holding ourselves to a bit of a higher standard, to appreciate being called in and understanding sometimes when we're called out, just asking to be better. I just want to acknowledge my colleague one more time, Representative Soper, who has done what I think we should all do, which is to celebrate folks in communities that are not ours. I appreciate his little gifts on my desk. I appreciate his stories. I appreciate yours too. So let me just apologize if anyone has felt personally attacked by my words. You all know I am passionate about people and against hate. I will always fight for that. But I want to do it in a way where you all feel like you can fight with me as well. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for stepping up and supporting those in our communities who are different and who are being attacked. And thank you for the work that we're going to be doing together on this issue. I appreciate the speaker for allowing me to speak once again.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Herod, for your apology. The challenge that I have, and the challenge that I think we all have, is that hate very often knows no bounds. Hate doesn't know very frequently anything but the desire to act your will on someone else. And maybe that is because of the color of their skin or the community they live in. We have a sordid history as humans of doing horrible things to each other. And so I stand here today to call that out and to say we all do ascribe to a higher notion, a notion of doing well by each other, no matter who they are, and standing up for those people who feel and who are experiencing discrimination of any kind. But I always worry about this holy place. I am standing in front of you in a place very few people get to occupy. I have a moment to speak to 65 of my colleagues, 64 of my colleagues, so that we can arrive at better collective decisions. Never should we make this podium a bludgeon to tell other people that they are either wrong or bad or anything else, because if we do that, we ascribe to the worst of the notions we condemn. I appreciate your apology. And not just that, I appreciate the fact that we do have these discussions, but when we cross the line from discussion to condemnation, we need to ourselves take a step back and say, that's not what we're here to do. I was brought a news story because I've been a little busy, and so I hadn't actually read the whole story of this particular incident. And there is large question as to why this individual committed the atrocious acts he committed. And so with that question hanging in the air, to come to this chamber and call out a much larger issue demeans that issue. Every single person in this room stands against oppression, against discrimination, against every single act that pits one of us against another. I am proud to call you colleagues. I am proud to call you friends. Please respect the work we do here, not as a message out to the world, but as a conversation with each other.
Representative Woog.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I do also appreciate your apology, Representative. I'm going to speak, I hope, and I hope I'm not out of line speaking for this Republican caucus over here. To hear these words over and over in that term, as someone mentioned, words mean a lot, and when we hear white supremacists over and over, it's hard not to feel like we are being included in that. So I appreciate your apology, and I think there's question, and I question, is this something, because we know they are in this world, but is this something government can fix? And I don't know. But as my minority leader said, I am willing, and I believe we all are, to stand by your side and find ways to fix this serious issue. But I just wanted to come up and say and I couldn't say it better than him, but we are with you. There might be question as to how we solve this. So again, I appreciate what you said, and that's all. Thank you.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you too,
Let
Representative
me read a
Bockenfeld.
headline here. Atlanta shooting suspect tells police not racially motivated, was purportedly driven by sex addiction. Atlanta massage parlor shooting suspect, and I won't use his name, took full responsibility for the string of Tuesday night attacks that left 8 people dead and another person injured, authorities said Wednesday. Police officials said the events were not believed to be racially motivated, and used his name, instead allegedly opened fire because he saw the locations as an outlet for him to succumb to the purported sex addiction temptations, police and officials said during a news conference. The perpetrator was allegedly on his way to Florida at the time of his Tuesday night arrest and indicated he was potentially going to carry out an additional shooting, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms said at the news conference. So the early indications are that this crime was not racially motivated. And I think we're at a point where we need to stop dividing our society. We stand up here and we say we love everybody. I was raised as a Roman Catholic and a Christian. I was never taught to discriminate. I was taught that racism and discrimination was bad. And it cuts to my core every time I'm called a racist, a white supremacist because of the color of my skin. I didn't ask for this color.
Representative Bockenfeld, listen, all of us, we're standing here condemning the tragedy in Georgia. I appreciate the fact, I don't want us to get into the details of what motivated what. 8 people lost their lives. That is tragic. We are all mournful for the loss. We have Representative McKean and Representative Herod sort of settled the issue that was before. I don't want it to continue to escalate during announcements and introductions. With that, Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll step down.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have to say something because when I speak of white supremacy as a black woman, I'm not calling any of you out for being racist. I'm just trying to address what's going on in our society. And I know that some people are frustrated by this, but try being me. Try living in my skin. All I ask for is the conversation about how something very real has attacked people who are not in the majority and how it tears us apart. It's frustrating. People are tired of talking about it. My mom is tired of talking about it. My grandparents were tired of talking about it. My kids will be tired of talking about it unless we do something about it. And sometimes it takes calling it what it is. So I don't apologize for speaking out for communities that don't have a voice or who are being attacked. And I want to note that as a black woman, the Asian community has stood with us as we fought for the movement for Black lives, and as we stand up and talk about how we are disrespected and treated in the workplace simply for being who we are. And I am feeling that right now. We stand in solidarity with communities who are being attacked, and we have to think about why. And if you don't understand how the API community, how racism affects them, being called the model minority, being exotified, that's what happened in Atlanta. Then let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about how these things are intertwined. But every time someone brings up the word racism, it shouldn't inflame you. It should make you ask how we can do better. And I'll do the same. Thank you.
Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do feel compelled as the only Muslim and Palestinian Arab in this chamber to say something. Words do matter, labels do hurt and can matter. And for people who look like me, who share my faith as a Muslim, or who call the Middle East home, the word terrorist is often attributed to people like me. And that generational trauma is real. I only come up here because I want to recenter this conversation to the folks that lost their lives because of their heritage, their place of origin, to a domestic terrorist who thought differently.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the midst of all that, I think we forgot to take a moment of silence.
We did not forget to take a moment of silence. We took a moment of silence. If people would like to take another one to reflect on the people who were lost, that's fine, but we did not. We did do that before. A moment of silence is granted. Any further announcements and introductions? Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess till later today.